Alright guys, welcome to another episode of ARWP, the All Real Wrestling Podcast. I am your host, Eric Novak, and today do I bring you a new video, a new interview with the one and only John Skyler. Enjoy the video. I know you will. The big grizzled John Skyler.
Thank you for having me on, man. I'm excited to talk some wrestling today with you here on your wonderful show that I've heard a lot about.
Really? Where'd you hear from it? I'm really curious.
I've heard it all over social media. I've seen you plugging it, and so I'm excited to be on.
Oh, I appreciate that. That means the world to me. All right, man. All right, let's get on this. So let's talk about your first match. You have an amazing wrestling background. What would you say is in your earliest career is your first match that got you to lace up the boots and get in that ring?
So the first match that I had, I actually was July the 6th, 2008, and so I just came up on my 12th year Wrestleversary, I guess is what it's called. And that was literally just recently, like last week. So, but my first match was in West Virginia back in 2008 against a guy named Bill Bain. I actually wasn't supposed to be on the show. I was there with my trainer, my original trainer, a journeyman wrestler named Bob Keller, who still trains people here in South Carolina. I tagged along with him, that helped put out the chairs, set up the ring, and then a couple guys didn't show up. And I'd been training for a few months, and they told me, Bob said, well, I've got a guy that's ready if you want to use him. And I got plugged in, and I think I got killed in like 3 minutes. So it was, but at that time, being 20 years old and always wanting to be a professional wrestler, it was like the best 3 minutes of my life. So
it started a whole other path. So tell me, what was the main reason why you fell in love with wrestling? What got you to say, I want to get my ass handled in that ring every single time, and I'm going to love it?
So I grew up a big fan of it. I grew up in a small town called Blythewood, South Carolina. It's right outside of Columbia. And I remember really falling in love with pro wrestling. I mean, because I had an older brother, so anything that he thought was cool, I wanted to think was cool just so I could hang out with him and all his friends. And so when they kind of went through their wrestling phase, I vaguely remember I was probably like 3-ish, years old. So I remember seeing Jake Roberts and Roddy Piper and Hulk Hogan and The Warrior and, DiBiase and all what I call the golden era of wrestling, the late 80s, early 90s, WWF stuff. But then I really fell in love with it in like 93 when I started catching Monday Night Raw for the first time. And there was an episode that started where Shawn Michaels was actually being interviewed like in the streets of New York City and out of nowhere, like off frame or right off camera, Mr. Perfect just came in and like smacked Shawn's glasses off of his face, and they started brawling through the streets of New York City. And I think Perfect threw Shawn through the windshield of a car. And as a kid, I was like, what is this? What am I watching? These guys are like this. It was just insane. So I was like pretty much hooked from then on out. I think the thing that really made me want to become a professional wrestler was the build up to the WrestleMania 12 Iron Man match with Shawn and Bret, because I was such a huge Bret Hart fan, still am to this day. And Shawn Michaels was becoming like the new top babyface, I guess, in WWF. And I slowly started turning from a Bret fan to a Shawn fan. But really the thing that I was infatuated with was the training videos that they had. Like, this is the first time two guys were ever going to meet in a 60-minute Iron Man match at a WrestleMania. And I remember they, for the first time, they really put an emphasis on how the guys were training for the match. And I just thought that was so cool. And, a big theme to all that was they were talking about how Shawn's boyhood dream was going to come true if he won the World Wrestling Federation, title or whatever. And I thought that was such a cool story, and that really resonated with me because I was 7, 8 years old at the time, and I was like, man, I want to be the WWF champion. So that's kind of what really made me want to be a wrestler.
All right. Well, because, this is a wrestling podcast, I do want to talk about, because you are a Bret Hart fan and we're talking about Shawn Michaels, my favorite conspiracy theory is the Montreal Screwjob. I want to know your take, and I talk about this with a lot of guests. I want to know your take on it as someone that's in this industry, someone that, has wrestled for NXT. And we'll talk about your career with NXT. We'll talk about everything. You have wrestled in the WWE ring. You have wrestled outside of, WWE rings. What would you think was the actual conspiracy to what was going on with that scenario?
So a lot of people wonder whether or not because I can see why people would think it's a conspiracy because I mean it created the number one heel in wrestling in Mr. McMahon, and then obviously that kicked off the biggest feud maybe in the history of wrestling between Mr. McMahon and Steve Austin. But and I mean, if you look at it like this too, the WWE now has continued to make so much money off the Montreal Screwjob, whether it's DVDs or books or network specials, you name it. They still continue to make money off the Montreal Screwjob. So I could see why people would think, maybe it was like an inside deal and maybe they were all in on it. But from my standpoint, first of all, when I watched it as a kid, I had no idea what was going on because I was too poor to have the internet. And so, I just thought that, I didn't even know. I was very confused when I watched it live because I didn't know the backstory.
Yeah.
Even as a kid, though, when I was watching them, when I was watching Shawn and Brett, especially around 97, you could still tell that there was some personal animosity, like even behind the scenes. Like I could see that they probably really didn't like each other. But I think it unfolded just like we've been told. I think Vince McMahon was worried about what Bret Hart was going to do the day, one day later when he was no longer under contract, and he couldn't jeopardize his whole, the whole direction of his company by letting his world champion go to WCW. So the only reason I don't think it was a work or an inside job is because I don't think you could have planned it that well. Like
That's what I agree with that. I agree with that 100%. If you watch the Dark Side of the Ring episode, because that's what really opened up this conversation again when Dark Side of the Ring did it. There was so much things like people say that Bret Hart actually wrote WCW with his hands. Like if you watch it and you hear it, this will be an argument that will be talked about for centuries. Like there will never be an answer. And I think even if you ask Bret Hart or Shawn Michaels, it's separate answers. There's still no actual.
So I'm a huge fan of the Dark Side of the Ring series. I watched every episode from both seasons. There were a lot of holes in that Montreal episode, though, and I think what a lot of people don't realize is like the WCW finger paint from Bret, like that never made air. Like that was something that they caught as the cameras continued to roll. Because just because a pay-per-view goes off the air doesn't mean the cameras stop rolling. So if you were watching the live pay-per-view, you didn't see that. You didn't see Bret smashing the monitors. You didn't see Bret spitting in Vince's face. Like none of that was on camera. It was all caught on camera, but it was all caught on camera after the fact. And that's something that fans kind of lose sight of because when we look back at it now, you get to see all that footage. But when the pay-per-view aired live, that's not how it aired. So literally when the pay-per-view aired live, the bell rang. You saw some sort of thing with Bret and Vince, but you couldn't really tell what it was. You saw Shawn all angry with Briscoe, and they go to the back, and then they go off the air. So that was why, like I was saying, even as a kid, I was like, what just happened? Like, I don't even know. Like, that was so strange and, like, sudden. So
I agree. All right. Well, let's get back to you because this is an interview with you, not, wrestling conspiracies. All right. I have seen a lot of your matches on NXT. You got versus American Alpha. You versus out of the tag team of NXT. Tell me how NXT came to you. Tell me how you decided the contract deals or they even called you up.
So just to set the record straight, me and my partner at the time, Corey Hollis, never had a contract. We were working on a per night deal with NXT. We did not only television, but we did live events, so non-televised events. We did things like WrestleMania Access in Dallas, and
Awesome.
We had to do a whole host of things over the course of the end of 2015 all the way through the spring of 2016. I think right around the summer of 2016 is when our kind of like trial run kind of came to an end there. But we were there for a good 10 months, and we were, on every set of TVs and stuff, and it was awesome. Literally, I just got a text out of the blue because I'm a part-time teacher as well. I went to college, got a teaching degree from the University of South Carolina, and I was teaching one day, and I got a text from a friend of mine who is now working for AEW, a guy by the name of Cash Wheeler, one half of the Revive. Well, I guess they're FTR now. So
Good catch.
I got a text from him, and he said, "Hey, would you be interested in coming to TV next week? They need a team to work with me and man, I don't even know what to call him now. I guess I got to call him Dak Harwood. I don't want to get anybody in trouble, but he said they want a team to come in and work with us, and your guys' names were tossed around." And so I said, "Yeah, sure, absolutely." We went in, we wrestled them, and then as soon as we got to the back, Coach Matt Bloom was very positive in his feedback for us, as were a lot of people. We did a couple other TVs like Raw and SmackDown.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say that at Raw, Corey worked with Braun Strowman, and at SmackDown, I did a Dark against Kane. And so that day when we were there, and I think we were in the SmackDown that we did was in Nashville. So one of the writers from NXT approached us that day and said, "Can you guys be at Full Sail on Wednesday or Thursday or whenever it was? We want you guys to work with Enzo and Cass." And so we just looked at each other and said, "Yeah, we'll get there." And they were like, "Really?" And I go, "We'll find a way. We'll get there." So, and then I think they saw the dedication that we had, the loyalty, the reliability. They saw that we, really, really wanted it. And from then on out, I mean, we were getting calls all the time, emails all the time. "Hey, can you guys come in and work with American Alpha?" And sometimes we would do singles. I would work with Elias. He would work with, Corey would work with Aleister Black or whoever. And, we did live events. I think I worked Elias on a handful of live events, Riddick Moss, a handful of people. And so it was a fun time. We got to do a lot of cool stuff. And, I have nothing but positive things to say about my time there. And it was, even though if it was a trial run or whatever, it was still quite the learning experience, getting to be around all that talent and more importantly, even like the producers and the coaching staff that they have. I mean, it's a wealth of knowledge.
No, yeah, it's a huge, piece of memory that you wrestled in a WWE ring. That's what, as a little kid, you grew up watching and being in that ring. That's already, set in stone. That's a memory that you'll never forget. And, everything happens for a reason. Look at where you are now. Look at where you're, wrestling now. And let's talk about, before we get to where you're wrestling now or what you're doing, where we see you now. Tell me about how the independent scene has been for you. You've wrestled, like I said before the interview, everybody. I have seen so many matches. Can you name me a few matches that, like, you think everyone should watch? And I have a few of mine that I think everyone should watch. Some that you think people should watch, and some that mean more to you than others, like just memorable ones that where time freezes, where you look at it and you're like, never forget this match. This is a memorable match.
Yeah, there's a handful. The one that sticks out off the top of my head is a match that I had with Johnny Gargano at PWX, which is available on YouTube. It's like a fan cam version, and I think it's a more authentic version for fans to watch to get the sense of what the building and the atmosphere was that night, or what it was like. Because for me, that match with Johnny was the ultimate learning experience for me, because he was a guy that was still on the independents. He was getting ready to go to NXT, and he was at the top of his game. And it was such a learning tool for me because we stood there in the ring and we were standing across from each other, corner to corner. The bell rings, and the crowd is like at a fever pitch because I was so hated. They really liked him. But then there was that weird sense of it's a homegrown guy against an outsider. So they got the dueling chants going right away from when the bell rang. So we haven't even touched yet. And it's Johnny wrestling, let's go Skyler, Johnny wrestling, let's. But then we get a little bit closer to one another, and the crowd on each side is getting louder and louder and louder to where I did the thing I call it the rock, because you do like this with your hands. And he walked out and met me in the middle of the ring. And keep in mind, we still have not touched. And we go nose to nose, and the place starts chanting, "This is awesome." And I was like, oh my gosh, like the light bulb went off in my head. I was like, sometimes it's really not not about what you do. It's about what you don't do. And a lot of it has to do with the characters and the people that are in the ring and the emotional investment in the people, not necessarily the moves or the actual, match or whatever. So that was one that always sticks out. Plus the match itself when we got going was phenomenal. I won, by the way.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. I had a great feud with a local guy named the Man Scout, Jake Manning, who's been around a very long time. We had a great match that's also on YouTube from PWX Another Level. The reactions for that, and that's what I live for, is the reactions of the people. I encourage people to go check that one out just for the last 5 minutes or so and just see the fever pitch again that the crowd was at for that. A lot of names that people would know. Cedric Alexander, me and him have wrestled numerous times. Like you said, Austin Theory, Cody Rhodes, Zack
Gunn?
Sabre Jr. What's that?
Billy Gunn. I was this was one of my favorite matches. It was, in my opinion, not gonna say it. I didn't underestimate you. I thought Gunn was gonna win that one. I was like, come on, he's a legend. It's an independent scene. People go crazy for that. When you won, I was like, man, his title reign's gonna be insane with it. I wasn't wrong with that. I wasn't wrong with that idea.
Yeah. Billy was great to work with, and on the independents, and then also at AEW, because he's somebody that's gone to bat for me as a producer. It was a tremendous opportunity to get the chance to work with Billy again. Zack Sabre Jr., Kevin Owens. There's been so many people that I work with on the independents. Hangman Page. The list really goes on and on and on.
I'll put a list like in my bio when the video goes up. It's gonna be just a list of names and like YouTube links.
Yeah, it's funny, and I know we'll probably touch on it. With AEW, it was so different walking in on the first day because I've never felt like such an equal on my first day at any wrestling company like I did at AEW. And I started looking around and I was like, well, wait a minute, I've wrestled like 80% of the roster already, so. It was kind of cool to walk into a place and kind of know everybody. And it's not that the pressure's off, but it's like, you fit right in right away from the get-go because you've already wrestled with a lot of these people.
Yeah. Tell me how that call came. Because, AEW is one of the most interesting companies because the talent that they have. And I'm saying this, and if you're on here, who knows, but I have a gift where I see an independent talent, and if I see something in them, I get them on an interview, and then something happens. I got Alan Angels. When he was facing Kenny Omega and Lance Archer for like a 5-minute, 10-minute match, and I was like, this guy's gonna be something. This guy's gonna do something insane. Now he's got to roll for the Dark Order, and I know for a fact, when you heal up, when you're ready, I believe 100% you're gonna be in it for the game for the long run.
Yeah. There's a general consensus out there, and I'm not trying to sound braggadocious or like I'm constantly putting myself over, but a lot of people that I've talked to have seen and commented on the matches that I've already had on AEW Dark have said that I look like such a good fit for AEW, and AEW looks like such a good fit for me.
100%.
And I think there's something, I've got a lot of ideas already of stuff and people that I'd like to work with and where I could fit in and some of the things that I could do when I do heal up. And I'm really excited about it. I'm really excited about the potential of, being AEW or being with AEW for the long haul.
So, do explain to me how that call came. I'm really curious how AEW got with you. How did that work out?
It was really random. It all happened really, really fast. Obviously, we've been living in the middle of a pandemic. There's not been much wrestling going on. Literally, I was training at the gym one day. I drive home because I found a little private gym that a friend of mine owns, and so we were the only two in there working out, so we were social distancing. But I got home, and it was like I got a message. I don't want to say from who, but they said, "Hey, if your name's being passed around, would you be interested and available for these dates?" And I said, "Yeah, absolutely." And then somebody else texted me, And then somebody else texted me. And then I got an email, and the email kind of confirmed it all. And it was such a whirlwind. It was literally like bang, 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 done. And then I was like, well, hell, I guess I'm going to Jacksonville next week. And that's really where the whole thing kicked off. And they booked myself and Brady Pierce. And Brady, for people that don't know, he's been wrestling 10 years as well. He's somebody that deserves the opportunity just as much as me or anybody else. So it was cool to be paired with him in a tag team situation. Never teamed before, ever. And so I think we gelled quite well. We've got a lot of ideas too. But as soon as we got done wrestling Sonny Kiss and Joey Janela, in the back, everything was, high fives all around. Everybody was really happy with it. And it was right there where they pretty much said, we want you back next week. So I was waiting for the confirmation on the next week's TVs. And I didn't even realize that Double or Nothing was being taped that Saturday, after our first TV. I literally got up that Saturday morning, was doing in-ring training at Bob Keller's school, the guy that originally trained me. And he was going to have a cookout that afternoon. So I did the in-ring training, drove back to my apartment, which was like 30 minutes to shower and eat before I went back to the cookout. Mm-hmm. And in that 30-minute window, I got a text from somebody there in the office, and they said, can you be at the pay-per-view? And this is, keep in mind, 1:30 in the afternoon, the day of the pay-per-view. And I'm in Columbia, South Carolina, which is 4 hours from Jacksonville.
Wow.
And I told him, I said, well, I would love to, but just so you know, I'm in Columbia, South Carolina. I'm 4 hours away. And the reply was, so can you get here? And I was like, I just started throwing my stuff in my bag, and off to the pay-per-view I went, and I got there at like 6 o'clock. And again, it was just such a whirlwind thing, man. But it's a really, really cool atmosphere. I really enjoy working there. And even since the injury, I can't tell you how supportive everyone at AEW's been. I can tell you till I'm blue in the face about how great they've been in dealing with me since this injury. It's been crazy.
Well, I see they're still keeping you because I see you, sitting at the ringside. I love the fact that they have opened up this world of wrestling where so much is happening in the ring and out the ring. Where they like to zoom in. Like, for example, what's been going around all over the news is Mr. Mullet Man showing up at their most recent pay-per-view, Fyter Fest. People are talking about the mullet, what's going on, where is she going to go, and it's like a big deal who they want to get, and that's amazing. If you're in an industry right now and you're not making a big name or big move, and you're sitting at an event, you're already being noticed, and so many people are already talking about you. So many people already want to know what's next. It's amazing how they came up with that. We've had wrestling for so many years, and AEW was like, let's just do that. And it changed the entire landscape, making other companies, have their wrestlers as fans. It's a whole different revolution of where we're at. But back to, back to the wrestling. What match did you get injured, though, is what I'm interested in. Which AEW match did you get injured in?
Myself and Brady Pierce were wrestling Stu Grayson and Evil Uno from the Dark Order. And this was probably going on a month ago now. Sometimes in wrestling, it's not always the craziest things that we get injured on. Sometimes it's very, very basic things. Mm-hmm. I was hooked for like a back suplex by Evil Uno. He lifted me up for the back suplex, and I backflipped out of it, landed on my feet. That was fine. And I encourage people to go back and watch it. And I can send you the clip today once we get done doing this. Evil Uno goes to throw a clothesline, and I was going to forward roll underneath this clothesline to make a tag to Brady Pierce. And as I did the forward roll underneath the clothesline, as Evil Uno came by, his quad and thigh just clipped the outside of my foot and leg, and it caused literally my knee to just kind of kick out the wrong way. Mm-hmm. And then, so the doctors have told me that's probably where I tore my MCL and my PCL. As I roll up to my feet, I go to lunge to make a tag, and I can't really jump or do anything. And again, my knee kind of just buckles and gives out, and they think that's where I tore my ACL. So I made the tag to Brady. The very next thing I did, which was very stupid, was a running European uppercut into the corner. And if you go back again and watch the clips, you can see me shaking out my leg right then and there, like I knew something was wrong. And as wrestlers, we try to make all the excuses in the world. Okay, maybe it's just like a hyperextension or a Charlie horse or something like that. A lot of the guys in the match, even after, didn't know I was hurt. But if you go back and watch it now, you can clearly tell that it gets a little bit worse and a little bit worse and a little bit worse. And then when I really knew I was hurt was I kicked Evil Uno up off of a backdrop with my bad leg, and I just that kicking motion. I felt it, and I've never felt so much pain in my life. I actually almost got a little lost for a second, like I didn't know where I was. Just because, it was pretty excruciating. And so I still somehow finished the match, wrestled another 2 or 3 minutes. And then when I got to the back, I made no bones about it. All the pride went out the window, and I made sure everybody knew that I was not in a good way.
How long is the injury? I know it's been a month already of you healing it, but how long is this, how long did the doctor say it's going to take until it heals up?
So I've been getting conflicting reports. As soon as I got injured, they projected 6 to 9 months. Just before surgery, they started saying that the big thing that they were going to fix in surgery, and as of today, as we're having this interview, I'm 2 weeks today post-op. So I had my surgery 2 weeks ago today. And what they ended up doing was they ended up just having to reattach my ACL. When they reattached that ACL, my MCL kind of pulled itself back together, and I'm going to have to rehab, obviously everything. But as I'm doing rehab, they're hoping that my PCL slowly heals itself too, because my PCL wasn't a full tear. It was just a high grade tear. So there's still, ligaments in there that are held together, and they're hoping as I rehab, all that'll be 100%. And now I'm being told it could be quicker than 6 months. So that might be me being a little bit optimistic, but I would say around the 6 month mark right now was the last thing I was told.
All right. Well, the faster the better. Right now there's no rush. You're still being used. You're still on TV. People still see you. That's the best thing about it. The fact that you're still there even when you can't wrestle. It's amazing. So talk to me about this, because I want to know, because is it a signed contract? Do you have a contract? Not like a yearly, but is it do they give you something when they keep you for more than 4 matches, or do they give you something saying, we want you to stay with us, we want you to get an idea or something? Not a year not like a 1 year contract, but something that makes you say, all right, well, I'm gonna be on AEW for a few more shows or events or anything like that.
No, there's no contract. There's no deal in place. There's no nothing. It's right now the old school way of a phone call or an email. And if you're needed for the date, they'll let you know you're needed for the date. And typically you have a pretty good idea of whether or not you're going to be back. And they're pretty good about staying in contact with you. It's kind of like if you're needed type deal.
Mm-hmm.
For the foreseeable right now, for the foreseeable future, I'm going to be doing a lot there in terms of just showing up and being there. I told this story on another interview just last night, and it's a real big peek behind the curtain. But the first person that came and checked on me when I got hurt, and they kind of rushed me back to the training room, the first guy that came and checked on me was Tony Khan. And that's a freaking billionaire that was sitting in Gorilla, took his headset off, stopped what he was doing at the show to come check on me in the training room. And him and several others there have been very good about following up and making it very clear that I'm going to be back. So it's a good sign.
Yeah, I really want to see you back. I have a big deal where it's if I see your look and your look is interesting, your look is awesome, I immediately want to know more. So speaking about that, and all my podcasts, a big deal is gear. and you have one of the coolest gears. Tell me why, and it's a big change. You've had a huge evolution for a different kind of gear. Tell me this brand new gear, the AEW gear. Tell me how that came to be. Why did you decide to change it up from your previous independent scene gears?
So I started getting in really good shape during the pandemic, actually right before. And I kind of wanted to lose the singlet and go back to long tights, which I haven't done since really my early years. And again, yeah, there has been quite the evolution of gear. If you go back and watch my matches from 2008, I'm almost unrecognizable. I have real cheap gear and like not even like a real ring jacket. It's like a hoodie that I bought from like a Walmart or a Kmart, and then ended up like going and taking it and getting my name embroidered in it. Like it was all very bottom of the line stuff. So, and it takes time too. You don't make a lot of money when you first start out. But the look that I have now, the tights, were actually inspired by Triple H's look from WrestleMania 15. I think he wrestled Kane. And I was literally sitting at home watching, the network trying to come up with ideas. And I was like, oh man, nobody really does that anymore. Nobody really has a look like that. And so that's really where the tights that I've been wearing on AEW, that's where that look came from, was I guess Triple H in 1999 at WrestleMania 15. But again, there's not always like a clear-cut idea of, I've got this look in mind. Like a lot of it's just trial and error. A lot of it is just trying new things and seeing what sticks and what fits and what complements me and my personality, my physique, all my character, everything across the board. So that's really, I guess, the best answer I can give you in terms of gear. But another big thing for me, and I tell guys on the independents this, is I think you shouldn't look like the guy that works at the gas station. I think the guy that works at the gas station buys a ticket to come see us because we should look like stars or we should look like somebody. And when I'm only 5'7", 5'6", 205 pounds. Like I'm not going to look like a Booker T or a Braun Strowman or somebody like that if I'm walking through the airport, where people will look at them and go, they got to be somebody. That might not necessarily be me if I'm walking through an airport. So I have to have good gear. I have to have something nice to wear, and I have to look good when I'm, on television. And, I see so many guys on the independent scene now, and they're so super talented, but they just don't invest in themselves. They don't have nice gear. Their gear has holes in it, or it looks dingy, or it smells, or, just it falls off of them. It doesn't fit, just things like that. So the one of the big pieces of the boxes that I check when I'm looking at talent is, what do they look like? And I think gear is a vital part of that.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I love that mentality. I actually might just quote that, I might quote that. But, it's true because for me, I agree with you 100%. Gear is everything. You don't want to look like the guy who works the gas station. You want to be the top talent. And that's what you did. When I first saw your match, I'm like, who's this guy? He looks familiar, because you look like an actual, wrestling superstar who would be on TV. And I wasn't wrong. I've seen a lot of your matches actually beforehand, I just didn't know it was you. But that's, again, such a big deal of why it's great to look like the part, which is exactly what you did. All right, so let's get out of AEW. Let's get out of, WWE. Let's talk about what you are. What do you do now? If this pandemic all blows over, where do you wrestle? Where are you, where have you been for the past year before AEW?
I guess I'm most known for a lot of the stuff I've done in PWX in the Carolinas. I've had my hands in a lot of things there, helping build that place and make that place grow. Unfortunately, Evolve just went out of, was just bought out or whatever, but we did a good job of building a working relationship with Evolve. We have a current good working relationship with New Japan Pro Wrestling, where we can, if they have, for example, last year, Jushin Thunder Liger was here for the G1 in Dallas on his retirement tour. We were able to pull strings and get Jushin Liger to wrestle on a PWX show. Things like that. And whenever New Japan does their American loops or their American tours, some of our guys sometimes get sprinkled in on some of the New Japan shows to get a look at from New Japan. So it's been a nice little working relationship, and I've been working hard to help give guys those kind of opportunities and build those kind of relationships. All the while also wrestling on the shows and also trying to help the next crop of guys that are hopefully going to take my place when I get signed somewhere or if I don't get signed somewhere, I'm not going to wrestle forever. So I'm trying to get that next line, that next crop of talent. And there's so much good talent right now in the Carolinas and on the Indies. Just trying to help get those guys ready to be the next guys in line.
Yeah, I mean, I do feel like you're going to be signed. I know, it's hard to say what's going on when, but I have a really big feeling that you will be signed to a company very soon. You're very talented, especially with your background. As soon as everyone watches this video, they will know exactly what I mean. They will go and they'll Google you and they'll see that you faced literally everybody there is to face and won most of those matches, which is unbelievable. But they'll get that. But it's amazing how your perspective on it, how you do feel like, when it's your time done, the next generation is going to take over. And that's amazing. It's amazing that you have a wrestling future too. That, when I can't wrestle, I'm still going to do stuff that contributes to wrestling. Wrestling is in my blood. Wrestling is what I want to do. It's what I want to follow. And that's amazing. We don't have a lot of people that are like that. I had an interview with TJP, who, wrestles for Impact right now, wrestled for WWE, New Japan, everywhere. And even he said, I don't even know what I'm going to do when I, retire. Probably open up a school, probably teach, because that's all, what we want to do. We want to contribute wrestling any way possible, which is definitely, the biggest thing to ask of a wrestler to do, because that's basically like you're not leaving the game. The game is just going to another level.
And absolutely, and that's a good point. And I guess I've always had the pay it forward type of mentality. I've been so blessed in my 12 years that a lot of my heroes that I grew up watching have become mentors for me, and they're people that I now get to work with side by side, whether it's a Billy Gunn or like Arn Anderson, who I was a big fan of growing up. Some of my style was patterned after him. He's a mentor of mine now. He's a coach of mine. He is somebody I see on a regular basis, talk to on a regular basis, get advice from. The Rock and Roll Express, Steve Carino, C.W. Anderson, Kevin Kelly, all these people have been very vital over the last few years in helping mold me and shape me as a performer with the idea in mind. When it's my turn, make sure I'm passing that knowledge down to the next crop of guys and making sure that, I'm helping mold and shape them because, whether we like it or not, we're all spokes on the wheel in this business. Where our time eventually comes to an end, but the thing that's going to stay is the business itself. Pro wrestling will be around for a very long time, and it's not going anywhere. And so that's the least somebody like me can do is pay it forward.
That is true. All right. Tell me about, after watching, like you said, you grew up, you are now have mentors. As a kid, as a child, tell me your favorite wrestling match. And let's scratch that. Not even as a kid. From now, what was your favorite? It could be an AEW match. It could be a WWE match. TNA. Doesn't matter. But tell me a match that you're like, that's probably my favorite match. And it's hard to say because it's really hard to say a favorite match. But tell me one that like you can put in that category.
So the one that kind of jumps off the page for me is Bret Hart and Stone Cold Steve Austin from WrestleMania 13. Just because you watch that match and if you couldn't put a timestamp on it, that match could have happened in any era. It could have happened in the 70s. It could have happened in the 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s, or now. That's how good that match is and holds up. It's gritty. It's dirty. It's violent. It's the storytelling is everything that pro wrestling should be. And just like the drama and what comes out of it. Everybody leaves that match better than they were when they went in. Believe it or not, Brett, Steve, and even Ken Shamrock, the referee for that, they all come out of that match better than what they were when they went in. And it's just a beautiful, beautiful match. And I encourage people, if they've never seen it, which if you haven't, you've been living under a rock if you consider yourself a pro wrestling fan. Go back and watch. If you're a young wrestler just getting in the business, if you've seen it already once before, go back and watch it again and try to pick out the details of why it's so good. So that one, and then the other one that I really enjoy and still watch from time to time is The Undertaker and Shawn Michaels from WrestleMania 25, because I remember right where I was when I watched that for the first time live. I was in my old apartment, and I had just gotten into the business. I was less than a year into the business, and I sat there and I watched that match, and my jaw just dropped. And I remember picking up the phone and calling people that when that match was over. Literally, WrestleMania was still going on. That match ended, and I was calling people on the phone saying, "I think I just saw the greatest match I've ever seen in my life." And I don't think anything will ever top it.
You're not the only one who's definitely done that. But wow, no, yeah, those, I actually haven't seen the Bret Hart and Stone Cold in a long time already. I'm actually gonna rewatch that now. I have not seen that one in a few days. Wow. All right. Okay, tell me the smallest thing you ever worked and the largest card you ever worked. Now you cannot count AEW no fancying because people have gotten away with that. And I was just like, oh, okay. And I just changed. So you can't give me that. You can't give me the dark shows or whatever. I want the smallest credit work. It could be a party. It could be, church. You'd be surprised what I've got. You'll be surprised what answers I got. And the largest card you ever worked.
Well, believe it or not, I think some of the AEW crowds that I've wrestled in thus far are bigger than bigger than the smallest shows that I've actually wrestled on. Because I've wrestled in the armories, at the birthday parties, at the churches, flea markets, bowling alleys, ice skating rinks, out in the park, schools, you name it. I've probably done it. Parking lots, car dealerships. I mean, these are all coming off to me off the top of my head. I remember vividly, though, and again, I've probably only been in the business 3 or 4 months, and I wrestled in a small show in South Carolina for a little independent company that would run every Wednesday night. And it's like a curse to run the same night of the week every week. Typically, those don't pan out too well. Mm-hmm. But there were 4 paying fans at that show. And I remember it was so funny to me because they all sat on the same side. And so, all the other chairs were empty, and there were 4 paying fans. So that was probably the smallest one. That's the one that stands out. The largest crowd I probably wrestled in front of, I mean, it would probably have to be like on a Monday Night Raw, wrestling like Primo and Epico, or maybe, maybe the Dark that I did with Kane in Nashville. It's really hard to say. And then some of the stuff that I've done in the UK over in England, especially, they come out in droves over there where, there's usually always a good turnout, and thousands of fans. So probably something for WWE or maybe one of the big shows over in England.
All right. And my favorite question of all is, what is the strangest place you ever worked? What is it could be the venue, it could be the arena. I've had answers from weed festivals, music festivals. I had crazy ones where it's like a school dressed up as a penguin. I had a boxing ring, which is a lot of the same. People go with wrestling in a boxing ring, and you can't really do springboard moves off those ropes. So please give me something. And I know you've wrestled a lot of places. Give me some place where you'd be like, this was just sketchy looking from the minute I got there.
Well, man, there's so many.
Give me a few then. I'd love to hear these.
I've wrestled in legit barns before where there was no AC. The walls were all wooden and close together. I remember one time wrestling in the middle of it was like a field, but it had like a horse track around it. And of course, it probably didn't smell too pleasant, as you can imagine that a horse track would smell like. But those 2 jump out. I've wrestled in baseball stadiums. I wrestled in a flea market one time where literally as you're going to the top rope to do something, you can look out, you can see everybody shopping in the flea market, and that was kind of crazy. I wrestled in the back of a bar, a little pub in Goose Creek, South Carolina, one time, where they had a PA system in the bar. So anytime somebody's like food order was ready, they would say it over the PA system. Mm-hmm. So like you'd be like as a bad guy or a heel, you'd be getting onto somebody and like you'd grab them in a hold and you'd say like, come on, give it up. And then you'd hear, Ted, your corn dogs are ready. Ted, your corn dogs are ready. So, and then you just kind of lose the crowd after that because, you're just like, oh man, you want to yell over at the people and go, hey, I'm working over here. So probably one of those.
All right. Now to the more, outrageous question, more of the think about questions. Like I said, you wrestle a lot of people. Name me 3 guys that you want to wrestle that you have not wrestled yet, that is still possible to wrestle, and they cannot be assigned to AEW. And then the next question would be, name me 3 guys from AEW that you have never wrestled and you'd like to wrestle.
I'll do the 3 from AEW first because it's going to take me a minute to think about the other 3.
No problem.
The one that really, really jumps off the page for me is Chris Jericho.
Okay.
Because grew up a huge fan of Jericho's against somebody else that I patterned myself after, especially when I first broke into the business, because I wanted to do it. I wanted to be and do it the right way in terms of professional wrestling. And I read his book right before I got into the business, and he always struck me as a guy that did it the right way. Mm-hmm. Like he grew up a fan. He went to college. He got a degree. He traveled the world. And then he went to WWE, and then he went to, AEW. But he had all this experience that he still uses today. And I always just really admired the way that he did it, and I wanted to do it like he did it. And that's what I've tried to do in my career, is get all this worldwide experience. And now hopefully soon I can reap the benefits of all that experience and use all the tools that I've learned to be successful in an AEW ring or somewhere else for that matter. But so Jericho is probably at the top of the list. I really like Ricky Starks, and I've never gotten the chance to step in the ring with him. He's somebody that's really impressed me here lately. He's just got that swagger. He's athletic. He's got a great look. He knows exactly who he is in the ring, and he does a lot of the little things that make a guy like a superstar. Mm-hmm. And then I would probably – oh, man, I got to think about who's on the roster now for the third one.
I told you this would be not an easy – this is a thinker. These are thinkers right now.
I'm going to go with Shawn Spears.
You've never wrestled Shawn Spears?
Never got the chance to. Wow, okay. Corey wrestled him when me and Corey were in NXT. I never got the pleasure, but he's somebody that I've always admired. Again, he's a veteran that's been around a long time, and he's somebody. He's so good, and I wish hopefully one day soon I can step in the ring with Spears. Now, in terms of everybody else all over the world, jeez,
give someone a shout out. Give a friend a shout out while you're at it.
Yeah. I'm going to say hey to my mom and dad who might watch this on some sort of social media platform sometime soon. Man, there's so much good talent out there. Now, are we saying anywhere like on the Indies? Can I say somebody in WWE?
Yeah. I mean, I'm guessing you can. I mean, I'm pretty sure that it won't hurt you to mention a friend or a name or
somebody. Because I got 3 from WWE off the top of my head that I could go with that I really wanted to, 3 guys I've always wanted to get the chance to work with. And that would be AJ Styles, for obvious reasons. He's probably one of the best in the world. Randy Orton, because everything he does is just effortless. And I truly think Randy's been the best in the business, even if people don't want to credit him as that. Mm-hmm. I think he's been the best. Yeah, I think he's been the best in the business for probably the last 15 years.
Agreed.
I think it might be JBL that said, if you were to think about what a pro wrestler would look like and build it from head to toe, it would look like Randy Orton. And I mean, just Randy's he's awesome. Like I said, it almost makes me angry how good he is at times because, again, everything he does is so effortless. And then the last one, again, is another guy that's a mentor of mine that's really helped me out. And, I was so happy that he recently returned, and that would be Edge, because he's another guy that I really patterned myself after. And, he's somebody that, has been huge and influential in my career. And, I mean, there's others, too. Would love to wrestle Adam Cole from NXT. There's so much good talent in WWE and on the independents. It's just so hard for me to say anybody from the independents right now because right now nobody's really wrestling on the independents.
Exactly.
So it's kind of it's kind of a washout at the moment. So, I would have to stretch and think about somebody from New Japan or something like that. But, those would probably be the guys that are at the top of my list.
I have a question though. Have you ever wrestled TJP?
I haven't. I've been on a lot of shows with TJP. TJP was in on a lot of PWX shows as well. He's amazingly gifted in terms of technical wrestling. I don't know anybody that is as dedicated to his craft as he is. So he would be one. And then another one that I was going to say is kind of like an honorable mention. I don't know if this counts since I've technically already wrestled him, but it was in a tag, and I want to wrestle him in a singles.
It counts. If it's a singles, yeah.
In a singles, I would like to wrestle Carl Anderson because I've always been a big admirer of Carl's work, even when he was doing a lot of the singles stuff in New Japan, like the G1 finals and all that. I've always been a big fan of his work. And, I got the chance to wrestle him and Gallows in a tag match, but I've always liked to wrestle or work with him. And there's a lot of guys on that list that were, recently released. The Heath Slaters, the Kurt Hawkins. I mean, all these guys are tremendously gifted and I think are going to do tremendous things when they get the opportunity to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, right now, 30 people got released. That's 30 more wrestlers in the independent scene. And the independent scene is hot. You'll never get nowadays. Back then, maybe. But nowadays, you go to like a home show. Like you got Wrestle Pro. You got House of Glory. Any show, you'll have a bunch of fans because that's homegrown fans. And the independent scene is huge now. It's very powerful. All right. Well, we are done with the interview. Tell me where people can find you on social media so everyone can officially now look you up, support you in any way. Merch, where could we get your merch? Tell me everything. Tell me all the.
So I'm on Twitter at the John Skyler, and it's Skyler. Same thing on Instagram, the John Skyler. I got a Facebook, but that's more of like a personal thing. People can still find me on there if they look for me hard enough or whatever. I got a pro wrestling tees store. Got tons of great merch on there that people can buy, or people can contact me directly if they were looking to buy some merchandise, because there's some things that I have in stock that Pro Wrestling Tees doesn't have. I've got trading cards, pictures, shirts, ring-worn memorabilia, so much good stuff for sale if people are interested. And I also pride myself on if somebody buys a shirt for me, I like to go the extra mile and throw in a little bit extra for some of the fans that buy my merch, just because I like to make sure that they're getting an experience as well. So I like to surprise people here and there.
That's awesome. Is there anything you want to say to the fans before I cut it off? Any emotional words of wisdom? Anything to I don't know. Anything you want to say to the fans before I cut it?
Legit, I'm still one of the biggest wrestling fans that there is. I grew up a wrestling fan. I'll always be a wrestling fan. And so nobody appreciates wrestling fans more than I do. If I've been a jerk to you at the table, it was not because I'm a jerk all the time. It's just my job sometimes. So, and then sometimes it's hard for me to cut it off too. And sometimes some fans make it easy on me to make it easy for me to be a jerk. Sometimes they're a little bit demanding. But no, I appreciate them spending their hard-earned money. I hope that they enjoy what I do and appreciate what I do, because right now, I mean, even this injury, I did this to try to entertain people around the world. And this is what happens sometimes. So these are just one of the many sacrifices that we make in our personal and professional lives. And if you guys want to see me again on AEW, I tell people this all the time, put it out there on social media, tweet AEW, Tony Khan, Cody, whoever you want to tweet, the Young Bucks, whatever you guys want to do, make your voices be heard. That's the best part of being in the generation that we're in right now with social media, is you can have your voice be heard. And if you don't like something, you can say it. If you like something and you want to see more of it, you can do that too. And I think that's a big part of what we do in our business now. And so without the fans, I would just be some jamoke sitting here talking to you from my apartment. And so I appreciate the time on here, and I appreciate all the fans.
Of course. All right. Thank you, everyone, for listening. I will see you guys next time. Guys, thank you so much for watching that video. I'm so happy everyone got a chance to stick around to the end. John Skyler is an amazing talent. He has been taking opportunity after opportunity and doing great things with it. Go check him out. Go watch his YouTube videos. Go just look him up. You will be amazed at the things that he has done in the ring and out the ring. Also, if you want to support me in any way, all my information is in the bottom below. Just subscribe, like, comment, share. I got more videos coming with, more guests, and I'm so excited to show it to you guys. Just gotta wait, and it's all gonna come soon. I'll talk to you guys later. Thank you so much. I'll see you next time.